Well, I won't take long, and I'll let you open it up like I've done before. But obviously, we got a challenge in front of us, so it's really hard to dwell upon the things from last week. That doesn't mean we didn't address them. Doesn't mean we obviously haven't watched and gone about the corrections of the things that we have to be able to do, because we got to continue to move forward. But with what sits in front of us in particular this week, it's really hard to spend a whole lot of time dwelling upon last week. And we put that to rest, put it to bed Sunday, went out there on the field, ran around, not quite as much as we normally would. So some of your questions on, guys' health and things like that, I probably would have less of an answer today than I would normally have on a Monday, just because, just where we are in the season and some of the injuries we've had, even coming out of the game, we weren't able to do as much on a Sunday that we would normally do, to just see where some guys are. But nonetheless, again, this is a challenge, and we know what it looks like moving forward. This week is going to be an incredible challenge, but I think that's something that our guys will help them kind of put the past behind them and make sure they're focusing on the things that are in front of them, the challenges in front of them, because the challenge is really, really big, and it takes your focus away from the things that just happened. So in some ways, this is a great opportunity for us.
Luke, you mentioned the challenge this week. I know it's been a tough few weeks, certainly, but what gives you optimism about what Wisconsin can do this week when the number one team in the country is coming here?
I mean, there's nothing to lose, and I think that sometimes some of the things that hold us back is just, our own selves, in a way that, like, look, we're trying to be perfect, and the recognition that if you're going to go out there and you're going to do anything against the number one team in the country, you can't be held back by, being perfect, because being perfect is not going to get us what we need to get. And so I think some of that, hopefully, even the things that have happened the last few weeks, at some point in time, hopefully some of the pressure comes off of recognizing, like, okay, what's holding us back and what's going to help us move forward. So I think it's twofold. It's being up for the challenge, it's understanding the challenge, but then be willing to understand, like, that this is a game of imperfection. And the only way to get better at the game is to play it faster. And when you're, in the perfect mindset, it doesn't allow you to do that. And against a team like this that you can't be perfect, it's going to, I think, give us a little bit of a, that little spark. That's what I believe.
Luke, you watch an Ohio State game this year, and a lot has talked about their defense and how they're disguising things. As you study them, I know it's only been about 48 hours, but as you study them, what stands out about how they kind of run their defense?
I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you that the way they disguise things and the things that they're really doing. I'm not to that point just yet. I know this. They've got really good football players, and I think that in particular, in the back end of things where a lot of the disguise comes from, they can do a lot of different things with Caleb Downs, and he gives you an opportunity to, line him up anywhere and know he's going to put himself into a position that makes it harder for you to read and recognize those things. So, again, the disguise is something that's really good, but I don't think that overshadows the ability of the guys that line up front and really across the board.
If Billy's unable to go this week, would the quarterback situation, would that be the same plan as last week? Or
can't answer that just at this point in time. I wouldn't know. We got to see the health of everybody, and so that's one of those things that not having a Sunday to see where we were. We also didn't give those guys opportunities to do a ton of things as well. That'll be big for as we get rolling into Tuesday. So I don't have a exact on that just yet. Then there'll be some version of, hey, let's see what we've got. And there's a little bit of a competition that's always got to be able to go on.
With Kerry Kadanko, these last couple games, he's been out there a lot. What is he giving you that allows you or makes you want to keep sending him out there?
Well, I think there's some consistency with Kerry. He's a guy that's still getting over a little bit of the injury that he had. So I'm not saying anybody in the midst of the season is 100% healthy, but Kerry gives you some, obviously some senior leadership, some calmness to what it is that he does and his confidence level, as opposed to some of the younger guys. And so I think that combination of having Kerry in there, even so 2 weeks ago when you had a new center, maybe wasn't as big of a, not say a big of a deal, but wasn't as necessary last week when you had Jake back at playing center. But I think that that combination of what Kerry has given you, knowing what it means to him, has been what's put him out there a little bit more than maybe Colin, and Colin hasn't had as many opportunities in the last couple of weeks. But that's another one of those things that, like, look, man, we're going to have to continue to grind this thing and move this thing forward. And there's a lot more young guys that are going to get some greater opportunities. That might be one of the positions. I'm not saying that Kerry hasn't done a good job, and I'm not saying that we don't believe in Kerry, but because he does give you obviously some leadership in that position. But I think as we continue to push forward, there's going to be a lot of guys that need to be put in a position to allow them to play, to see what they can do.
Coach, I remember in the preseason you talked about establishing that leadership group to hopefully keep things together when these tough times inevitably hit. I'm assuming you met with them after Iowa. I guess
No, I haven't met with them just yet, but
I guess meeting them with them over the past several weeks. How would you gauge the pulse of the team and their willingness to stick things through?
yeah. Well, I would say this, that sometimes sitting with a leadership group isn't the best way to gauge the pulse of everything that's going on. Not that they don't tell you, but it's still one of those things that's not the most open. But if you're going through the locker room, watching, sitting, looking, listening, I think that has a lot to do with, what we need to be able to do, as opposed to just, are they going to tell us everything that they're thinking, whether it's a leadership group or not. And I can sit here and tell you that's where you don't feel it. There's a difference even to, as we struggled last year, that you felt some things different on the sideline. You saw some things different in the locker room. You heard some things different, whether it was in the locker room or after practice or whatever, that those guys have done a really good job, continue to push the message of what this is. And so whether they've told us exactly how that is, like sometimes, by nature, people tell you what you want to hear, but they usually show you what you need to know. And I think that we've seen a lot of those things that I think those guys, they continue to promote and push the things that we have stressed, and I mean that in the toughest times. And so again, it's been able to communicate with some of those guys, but I think just watching how they react and how they handle the locker room, the things that are being said, the way that guys, come and go, I'm not worried about that. There's a lot of other things I had to be worried about, stopping Ohio State or defending, some of their incredible players or blocking some of their guys. That, to be honest with you, that's even more of a concern to me than where we are with the locker room, because I think those guys have done a really good job.
Luke, talking about some of the younger players, someone like Kairos Gaines, how did you evaluate some of the film what he did against Iowa?
I think he did a good job. I think that he's always been a guy that's been in the mix in some ways, but he'd been playing field corner, and through the first 5 or so games hadn't got many opportunities other than some special teams, just by nature with Rico. And this past week, moving him into the boundary, we knew it was going to give him some opportunities to be able to roll in there, and the opportunities he got, I thought he did a good job. He didn't panic. He didn't, bat an eye at the, obviously the magnitude of the game and things like that, where, he's taken a lot of reps through fall camp. But those reps are a lot different than when you actually go out there and the lights are on. And it didn't seem to be overwhelming him in any way. And I see a guy like him continuing to play more and more, whether that's defensively or special teams wise, but his role is going to continue to increase because I think he's handled it well.